At SXM, we're taking travel and tourism to new heights. Here we boast spacious check-in areas, 10 passport control points, comfortable departure lounges, and an exciting new airport mall. Finally, there's an airport in the Caribbean that takes your travel plans as seriously as you do. Princess Juliana International Airport. The experience will move you.
Welcome to the Late Night Show. Hope everything is okay. Hope everything is all right. I'm your host, Andrew Dick. Okie dokie, what's happening on the lovely island of St. Martin? We begin with the meetings took place today at the Parliament. Enya was the topic of discussion. What is the latest? The Minister of Finance, who continues to be the worst Minister of Finance that St. Martin has ever had, and thank God we're replacing him, was present, and of course he didn't give a shit because, you know, he's lazy. He's just like, yeah, Enya, not my problem, not my monkey. There's a new government that's coming in. It's all your problem now. F you! But, you know, he still had to, pretend to be the minister and come and talk to the members of parliament who he has no respect for because he just didn't give a shit. The nonchalantness of Minister Atwell Irion is...
As such, I advise the Parliament of St. Martin to schedule a public meeting to support the resolution of Enya. Madam Chair, that'll be all.
What makes my day. Because he's just like, what are you going to do, fire me? I'm already fired. Anyway, interesting stuff happened during the meeting. And believe it or not, it had nothing to do with Enya. Take a look. Strange, very strange.
My colleague a while ago spoke about St. Martin being on the back burner in terms of the information catching up. Because we have viewed, read, listened, where unanimously the Parliament of Curacao came together and indicated in selling Enya shares or selling parts of Enya assets, which came up was Mullet Bay. That's what they spoke about, selling. I haven't heard it in the document that the minister read, Madam Chair. He did make mention that something was said in Curacao, but the part of selling, I didn't hear the minister made mention to that. So I would want to ask through you, Madam Chair, to the Honorable Minister, is he aware of that motion or that agreement or whatever it was that was passed unanimously in the Parliament of Curacao when it comes to selling? Because I think the minister is still just sliding over the situation as it is concerning Mullet Bay.
GB God! This is impossible. This is the Parliament of St. Martin and there is no GB? Oh my God, it's very, very dark.
But get him the GB, walk up in the...
Christopher, anybody? Did everybody leave? Did everybody leave?
Hey, hey, hey!
How is it possible that the highest legislative body, the highest body in the land, does not have a generator? And you wonder why GB keep on cutting off every single place in this whole island. It even started to affect EDF, because EDF even getting outages like crazy. It's like GB like a virus. They're like a black bite. Because they was hacked. So it looked like they're hacking everybody by not giving service. But yet they're busy reconstructing, and they think we didn't notice that they're building a whole nother floor on top of their main building next to their parking lot. It would have made so much more sense if they decided to. I'm straying, but they could have just used the parking lot. I'm still not over it, people. Anyway, so back to the parliament. They didn't have a generator. There was no power. Therefore, everybody went home. No, they didn't wait and continue the meeting. You crazy? That would actually means that they had to work. They're not doing that. No. But prior to the blackage, the outage, the blackout in Phillipsburg, highlights of the meeting.
I have received notice of absence from the members Doran, Jacobs, La Cruz, and lateness, a notice of lateness from MP Roseburg. Are there any notifications from the floor at this time? That not being the case, allow me to, in addition to my expressions of condolence this morning on behalf of Parliament to the family, friends, and colleagues of Mr. Vital Carty, also add our condolences to Miss Angela Sadler, a former worker at the government of St. Martin. Our heartfelt condolences to her family as well. As agenda point for this meeting, we have detailed outline of the ongoing ENIA situation, the proposed ENIA loan mentioned in the media by State Secretary Van Huffelen, the impact on the national budget, and government's intentions towards the situation in light of the September 30th, 2023 deadline. This request is registered on the IS 025 of the parliamentary year 23-24, and it's dated September the 20th of 2023. It was requested by the members Gums, Peterson, and De Weaver. So going over to the agenda point itself, as I mentioned, it was on September the 20th, 2023, that we received a letter from the MPs just mentioned with a request for an urgent Central Committee meeting of Parliament with the Minister of Finance to discuss the above-mentioned agenda point, considering that the ongoing situation with ENIA had prompted the discussion of a 600 million euro loan from the Netherlands with a deadline of the 30th of September 2023 to either accept or decline. As stated, the presence of the Minister of Finance, Mr. Artwell Irian, was also requested. This meeting commenced on September the 27th of last year, during which the Minister of Finance gave a presentation on the agenda point, and members took the opportunity to ask questions to the Minister regarding the ongoing ENIA situation. The meeting was then adjourned until further notice to allow the Minister time to prepare the answers to the questions posed. On March 6th of this year, Parliament received information regarding the ENIA situation and the answers to the questions posed during the Central Committee meeting of September the 27th. All members of Parliament have received a copy of this document via email, and it is accessible on the Parliament General team. Today, the Minister has returned to answer the questions posed at the start of this meeting, and hence today we continue with this meeting. I will now give the floor to the Minister of Finance to give his opening remarks and answer the questions posed by the members of Parliament. Minister of Finance, you have the floor, and by the look of the Minister, I assume he's going to ask if he has to go over the answers as provided. I saw you look a little perplexed when I mentioned you will be given the answers, but you may ask your question, Minister. You have the floor in any case.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the members of Parliament. Good afternoon to those of you in the Tribune. Good afternoon to the viewing public. Yes, Madam Chair. On March 6th, we sent the answers to Parliament. And in addition to that, we also mentioned that the decision had changed in terms of the position we were going at. So answering those questions now became a sort of a moot point. But answers were sent on March 6th. But if it's still necessary to read the answers out, even though it really doesn't make any sense now, then we will proceed.
Thank you, Minister, for that notification. Members of Parliament, the Minister has indicated that most of the answers given in his written response to questions posed in the first part of this meeting are actually outdated, and things have changed. With your indulgence, I'll therefore then ask the Minister to please present to Parliament then an update on the matter based on the request for this meeting and what was mentioned there. So with that, members, you do have the written answers for you to peruse if you deem such necessary, but I will now ask the Minister, given his statement, to provide an update on this entire matter to the members of Parliament. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On September 27, 2023, I informed Parliament on the ENIA situation and highlighted that the proposed restart of ENIA would be possible with a significant capital injection from the Netherlands. However, the solution, as I mentioned earlier, proposed at the time will have a significant increase in debt and debt to GDP ratio that is expected that Curaçao will immediately or very quickly exceed the interest burden norm. I'd also like to mention just also that the Parliament of Curaçao recently gave its support in the public meeting on the February 29, 2024 for the new and recent proposal. By my letter of October 10, 2023, I informed Parliament through its attached documents that Curaçao and the Netherlands were not able to solve the issue on the interest burden norm, and as such, Curaçao announced to not continue with the restart scenario of ENIA as was worked on so far. On March 5th, 2024, I provided Parliament with all the answers on the questions posed during the meeting of September 27, 2023. Having said all this before, today I will inform Parliament further on the ENIA situation and the new proposal to be implemented. As a refresher, the ENIA Group has been under emergency regulations since July 4, 2018. CBCS has been running ENIA as an going concern while restructuring both the liabilities and the assets. The rationalization and harmonization of insurance policies, operational reorganization and cost measures, clawback of funds from overseas, the liquidation of high-risk investment portfolio, sale of Banco de Caribe, etc., and most importantly, court proceedings against the shareholder leading to a judgment in appeal, ordering the shareholder to pay back at least 230 million guilders with the litigation still pending. The Central Bank, however, called on government to prevent an insolvent resolution because amounts recovered may not come timely and may not be sufficient to fix the deficit. Curaçao and St. Martin invested substantial time to explore various alternatives, both as a strategy for ENIA and how to restructure a potential support package for ENIA. At first, just before the summer 2023, Curaçao and St. Martin pursued a continuation, in Dutch it's called a doorstart, as the preferred resolution, and representatives of both the countries worked with the Netherlands and Central Bank to develop a plan for the same. The outcome was a comprehensive package resulting in a restructuring with a full continuation as outlined in the old outline agreement of the 16th of August 2023, the Hoofdlijn Accord, which is the old one, which was put to the Council of Ministers of Curaçao, St. Martin, and the Netherlands. Curaçao eventually indicated it had to depart from the initial proposal, and in continuation on October 2023, it said it was to be implicated exceeding of their interest burden, which could potentially jeopardize the capital investment loans. Therefore, Central Bank, Curaçao, and St. Martin resumed talks to come to a new outline agreement. Parties agreed to the new outline agreement on a technical level on the 18th of December 2023. The new outline agreement provides for a partial continuation of ENIA, which once approved will be implemented as soon as possible in 2024 and avoid a reduction on policies. The new outline agreement provides for, amongst others, 1, the creation of a new solvent life insurer together with the new associate entities. The shares in ENIA will be held by a new established Stichting Beheer, which will issue share certificates to a new established resolution. 2, a split of the life insurance portfolio between ECL, which is the old, and ECL new, subject to court approval. 2A, rights and obligations occurring from premiums paid before July 2018. To B, rights and obligations occurring from premiums paid since July 4th, goes to the new. 3, partial continuation of ENYA through ENYA New as a competitive insurer, fully capitalized, reorganized, and fully licensed. 4, a runoff of the ECL old with the rights and obligations of accruing premiums paid before July 4th, 2018. Curaçao St. Martin and the Central Bank will provide annual funding to pay all policyholders over time so that policyholders will, as far as currently be foreseen, not be subject to any reduction on their rights. The stipulated amounts are to be paid to the Resolution Fund, which will use the funds to finance the old ECL. The funding from Curaçao St. Martin to the Resolution Fund will have the form of a subordinated loan. In that way, if ENYA manages to recover substantial amounts from the Ansari et al., the funds provided will eventually be repaid to the financiers. The financial model. Central Bank established a technical committee with experts, financial advisors, and legal advisors to support the design and the restructuring of the preparations. A financial model was developed that forecasts the expected cash flows of ENYA for 50 years. In addition, a financial model was developed that forecasts the expected earning power, profitability, and cash flows of ENYA. The data set underlining the financial models does not yet meet the quality criteria that typically apply to an investment of this magnitude due to the scarce resources available at ENYA and Central Bank and the complexity of the calculations of individual contracts needed for the attribution to the ENYA old and the ENYA new. A focal point of transition is to further pay attention to the financial reporting of ENYA for the allocation of revenues, claims and benefits, and operational costs, which is also required if ENYA is to be sold to a private party in the future. The interest of policyholders, the public interest in the final solution, and the anticipated adverse consequences of putting a systematic institution completely into a runoff led the parties to prefer a partial continuation, noting also that this scenario entails a relatively low risk and provides opportunities for value preservation. Considering the financing required for the partial continuation, parties agreed the Central Bank will pre-finance the remaining deficit in years when the yearly contributions provided by Curaçao, St. Martin, and Central Bank would not be enough to pay all the policyholders. Some key topics, the status and conditions. The outline agreement will be signed after the approval of the Council of Ministers in each country. The outline agreement will be signed after the approval of Council of Ministers in each country and the board approval Central Bank. Under the reservation on approval from the external parties, like after the court of first instance in Curaçao has approved a measure to be applied to the life insurance portfolio, and after the support of the parliaments of Curaçao and St. Martin for the final contribution that must be made by the countries for the annual resolution over the long period. As I mentioned before, the Parliament of Curaçao has already approved this on February 9, 2024. The partial continuation is preferred to be implemented as soon as possible in 2024, and parties have started working together to get the whole package documented and ready to go. The outcome. Central Bank, Curaçao and St. Martin will fund the resolution fund through yearly contributions. In addition, the Central Bank will provide a bond loan to the resolution fund to enable a capital injection to ENYA and a peak facility to pre-finance any deficit in the resolution fund. Both the bond loan and the peak facility will be covered by a guarantee issued by the countries. The yearly contribution from the Central Bank will be in the form of dividend payments. St. Martin will receive part of the dividend payments in cash to make sure it does not contribute more than its fair share in the partial continuation. The governance. The shares in ENYA will be held by Stichting Beheer, a foundation focused on value preservation and commercial management of ENYA. A new professional management will be installed at ENYA, and new licenses will be issued under the supervision of the Central Bank to support the transformation of ENYA. The resolution fund will have a supervisory board consisting of 4 members appointed on binding nomination. Curaçao will have 2, St. Martin 1, and Central Bank 1. The capital loan. ENYA will be capitalized by the resolution fund to ensure that it satisfies solvency requirements and will be able to purchase, amongst others, the shares in ENYA Carib and ENYA Carib Zorg, and rights and obligations accruing from the premiums paid since July 2018. In the transition, in the first 2 years after the partial continuation, Curaçao and St. Martin will have increased information rights, allowing them to anticipate on developments and the success of partial continuation. Key drivers for the partial continuation versus the runoff: the partial continuation is feasible in the short term, value preservation, viable parts of ENYA, reduction on the policyholders' rights can be avoided, continuation of critical services, like no group of roaming policyholders having to turn to other insurers, competitive insurer with good because of the recent business, prevention of market concentration, and positive effect on value of ECS and ECZ through cross sales, and value of ENYA will benefit the policyholders via dividend and sale, potentially leading to a reduction in contributions from both Curaçao and St. Martin. The runoff, doubts about financing feasibility and accountability, requires a substantial ongoing capital contribution from Curaçao and St. Martin, which cannot be recovered in any situation, and it's likely to be perceived as a failure and not rescue the institution. It is also important to realize that Parliament has to support any financial consequences of the outline agreement. As such, the approval of the Council of Ministers and the signing by the Prime Minister of the outline agreement is under the reservation of, amongst other, the Parliament that has to approve the financial consequences. Intervention is necessary because the problem is large capital shortage at ENYA, and without a solution, 30,000 policyholders would have to have their pensions significantly reduced, of which approximately 3,000 policyholders are residing on St. Martin, which would have a social and economic consequences. Next to any financial consequences for government based on pensions that will be significantly reduced, we have to remember that the Netherlands conditioned in the 2024 upcoming refinancing of the 316.4 million guilders on a resolution of ENYA. If no resolution will be found, it is not unlikely for St. Martin to be confronted with an interest rate of 6.9%, as Aruba is confronted with. To put this in perspective, the yearly contribution from St. Martin to the resolution fund is estimated to be affected by the yearly budget for an amount of 2.3 million guilders, which effects has to be further calculated. An interest rate for the refinancing of 6.9% would result in a yearly extra interest cost of approximately 11 million guilders, which costs are higher than the annual resolution itself. As such, I advise the Parliament of St. Martin to schedule a public meeting to support the resolution of ENYA. Madam Chair, that'll be all.
Thank you, Minister of Finance, for that presentation. Of course, I would look at the members of Parliament for any questions that they would have. But firstly, I would like to ask the Minister if the overview as just presented can be shared with Parliament so that members can receive it and dive a little deeper into the information as presented. The Minister seems to be concurring with that request. So members of Parliament, I give you the opportunity now to ask any questions based on what the Minister has presented thus far. I see MP Ludmila De Wever has requested the floor. MP De Wever, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good afternoon to you, Griffier, my colleagues here, Minister and his team, those viewing and listening in. Madam Chair Lady, you actually covered the first request, which is what everyone probably was asking about, because as we're getting this information very quickly out, coming out the mouth of the Minister of Finance that is already financially savvy with what's been happening. We're playing catch up. We're playing catch up to a decision that was made in Curacao, but we're also playing catch up in terms of the update that the minister just provided us. And the update goes over several scenarios that even as we enter into our budget debate discussion in the Central Committee meetings, we need to understand in detail, not just get the answers from the minister, but we need to understand the various proposals and what their financial impact is going to be on our 2024 budget that we're going to hopefully approve, or whatever happens when we continue on with the budget debate. So it would be nice if we had time a little bit to review the answers that was just given to us via the update of the Minister of Finance, to go through that, because we're trying to hurriedly write down notes of something. So I don't know if that's available, how we're going to approach that, but this is a lot of information that is going to have financial impact for us. And if I could ask one question based on what I was able to take notes of, there was something that the Minister of Finance said, where he said that they were looking to get, if they could get any money back from the owner, Mr. Ansari. But if I remember correctly, there was an offer made in the past of Mr. Ansari to pay something. So I just didn't understand the connection of, we're still expecting to get something in terms of what the central bank said. We're hoping to still get something from the owner, but then they refused the owner. So yeah, do you understand the part of the conversation that I really want to get a whole picture of? Because if you're having an expectation that you're still going to get something back from the person that was involved in this case, that needs to be shared accurately, as in, is that an actual possibility? Is that realistic? Or is this in the hands of someone else? Because then if that's the case, then I don't know what number we're trying to deal with, which is exactly why I feel like we first need to go through this updated information in order to digest it and then come with questions, or else we'll be asking the same questions over outdated information rather than the important stuff we just got today from the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP De Wever. And note taken, I saw the minister indicated that he wanted to react before the MP had actually finished her request. So, Minister, you can make that position, or whatever you were going, the comment, you can make that now.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So we will send the notes from just now. In addition to that, we can also send the outline agreement itself to Parliament for review. And just briefly answering the MP regarding the owner, there was no offer made for any payments, and we are still in litigation actually, so no offer was made for any payments. But we'll send this document and the outline agreement.
Thank you, Minister. And yes, I would kindly ask you to do so, and because before a meeting can be held on the outline agreement, members would have to receive that document. We would have to receive it in time before a meeting will be scheduled for the discussion on that document. I look at any other member. I see MP Christophe Emmanuel is requesting the floor. MP Emmanuel, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. And good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the Clerk of Parliament. Good afternoon to the Honorable Minister of Finance and his support staff. My honorable colleagues, good afternoon to people of St. Martin listening and viewing by whichever means. Good afternoon to everyone. Madam Chair, I am a bit curious. And the reason for that, Madam Chair, is my colleague a while ago spoke about St. Martin being on the back burner in terms of the information catching up. Because we have viewed, read, listened, where unanimously the Parliament of Curacao came together and indicated in selling ANIA shares or selling parts of ANIA assets, which came up was Monad Bay. That's what they spoke about, selling. I haven't heard it in the document that the minister read, Madam Chair. He did make mention that something was said in Curacao, but the part of selling, I didn't hear the minister made mention to that. So I would want to ask through you, Madam Chair, to the Honorable Minister, is he aware of that motion or that agreement or whatever it was that was passed unanimously in the Parliament of Curacao when it comes to selling? Because I think the minister is still just sliding over the situation as it is concerning Mother Bay. But I would want to believe that he is much more concerned about it as to what was read in the document. Also, Madam Chair, St. Martin received a favorable interest from the Dutch government on.
There you go. Go Parliament of St. Martin. All right. In some other news, I see, I notice people been asking me what is happening. Is it true that the governor doesn't want to swearing the 4 or 6 ministers that are ready to go for the 2x4 government? The answer is, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not speculating on that one. Why? Because I actually discover politics. You know, I'm not a crime reporter, failed politician, trying to be a news media, and then telling you shit that I don't know nothing about. I just don't understand. Like, if you're not sure about something, or that if you're not 100% about something, why mention it? And if you do mention it and you're wrong, then you apologize. I did that many times. I don't like it, but I do it many times. But if this is a political satire show, guess what the topic going to be every single goddamn day? Politics. Surprise. So, of course, we're hearing so much things, and yeah, it's okay to let people know, inform them as to what's happening because they're curious. But for this whole speculation, and then the thing is, you know, it's already not your strong suit, because if it was your strong suit, you would actually get elected. But then you're throwing out the notion of the governor doesn't want to swear in. What? The report has to be in by the 31st. By the end of the month, the formateur got time in order to give in his final report. What the hell are you talking about? About he doesn't want to swear in the 4 or 5 or whoever ministers are ready to go. The governor is not Governor Eugene Holiday. You have to remember now, trial and error. When it comes to our governors, we only had 2. Well, 1. We had Eugene Holiday since 10-10-10, and now we have Governor Ajamu Bailey. So the only example that Governor Bailey can reference to is Holiday. And you can literally call that Mr. Holiday is an expert when it comes to this thing, because he has been there for the shortest governments and the longest ones. So, when it comes to this situation now with the ministers, the soon-to-be ministers having to take office, the governor is going to do it on his own time. In the meantime, the formateur, which is Dr. Luc Mercelina, asked until the end of March. So since we're in the middle, can we give it a little bit more time? It could happen any minute now, people. Take it easy, tranquilo. Welcome to the Late Night Show. We have a good one for you. Let's begin.
Hi guys, it's Jimmy Sachs. It's always an honor to be with St. Martin. My first 2 performances at Roxy Beach were epic. We recorded the hit single Smile. Second time we did Time. My third and final performance will be on March 23. St. Martin, I promise you, you don't want to miss this one. See you on March 23 at Roxy Beach. All the best, Jimmy Sachs.
Hi, Mom. How are you?
Hi, darling. I'm fine. Just calling to say hi.
Oh, okay. We got over here.
Girl, I hear watching this movie and it.
But, Mom, you finished all your minutes yet?
No, girl. Talem has new postpaid plans and automatically upgraded my postpaid package.
Is that so?
Guess what? I am getting more minutes and almost double the amount of data for the same price.
I guess I'm making a switch now.
Let me call you back, Mom.
Hey, Tash, you hear about Telem new postpaid plans?
Flashback time. Yes, let's go into the flashback. We got a good one for you today.
Flashback.
My Lords, with the leave of the House, I wonder if you permit me to offer my sincere apologies to Baroness Lister for my discourtesy in not being in my place to answer her question on a very important matter at the beginning of questions. During the 5 years at which it's been my privilege to answer questions from this dispatcher box on behalf of the government, I've always believed that we should rise to the highest possible standards of courtesy and respect in responding on behalf of the government to the legitimate questions of the legislature. I'm thoroughly ashamed at not being in my place, and therefore I shall be offering my resignation to the Prime Minister with immediate effect. I do apologise.
That was in Britain after the guy came a few minutes late into Parliament. Now, eventually, the Prime Minister did not accept his resignation, but that's how easy and that's how much respect they have for the highest body in St. Martin, which is the Parliament and the ministers. You know, they're the highest body. You wouldn't agree? So, Minister of Romy, Miklos Gitterson, was convicted yesterday, on Wednesday, to be exact, for drunk driving, and he received, or he will be receiving, a fine of 300 guilders and 1,500 guilders, making it 1,800 guilders, and 6 months suspension on his driver's license. Now, if you remember, a couple of months ago, there was an accident where he was driving the minister car, the M6 or 5 or 4, whatever the number was, and he hit a passenger bus, not a school bus, but a bus, passenger bus, you know, the running buses. Pay bus is what we just call it, right? Yeah. And it was a fender bender almost, but you know, because the Haitian driver was dramatic, he was like, oh, my neck, oh. Yeah, I know, I'm racist. Anyway, so he made a big scene. Of course, police came, and police noticed that the minister was kind of, sort of drunk. And of course, you can't watch somebody and say they're drunk, even though they look drunk. You have to actually test them. So they brought him to the police station and told him he's under arrest, and if he does not agree to do a test, he's not going home. And of course, our 12-year-old minister said, okay, I'll do the test. Anyway, so he did the test. He did a blood test. So they came and poked him with needles. And they found in his blood traces of the ganja. The ganja, that's the right term to use, homegrown, the kush, the stuff, the grass, the steward. I don't know, I'm just making up as I go along. But you know what I mean. Yeah. And also, they found alcohol. His blood level was all the way up. So it was proven that he was intoxicated. So in court on Wednesday, he was sentenced by the judge. The judge will then, well, actually, the judge will give his final decision very soon, but the prosecution is asking for the 1,800 guilders and suspension for 6 months. But initially, he did admit to the accident, therefore, making him the first convict minister that we have serving the cabinet of the Leona Marlin II. In Sweden, in 2016, something similar happened, and guess what was the result of it?
Sweden's youngest ever cabinet minister, Aida Hadzialic, has resigned after being caught driving under the influence of alcohol. The 29-year-old minister for higher education was just over Sweden's alcohol limit, which is low compared to many other countries.
Now, let's look at this practically, let's look at this. We have a minister currently serving in the cabinet. We have so much things that is plaguing this particular government. And yes, you might say there's better things to think about, and the minister have better things to do. But for him to be convicted of driving under the influence and still be a minister should be considered morally wrong. Legally, according to our Constitution, only if a minister is convicted of serious crimes. This would not be considered serious because he had a couple of drinks. And like Fernando Clark would say, if we have to arrest everybody who had a couple of drinks, they won't have no cars on the road. And I agree with that statement. However, if a minister, any minister, is caught and it's proven that he was under the influence, which in this case it was, how is it that not one soul is saying anything about it on this wonderful tourist day? I mean, and I try not to get too passionate about it because the good gentleman is a friend of mine. But when it comes to the office, we should be able to hold it to a high standard. And the fact that he doesn't even acknowledge and make a public apology, or the coalition come together and hold hands with him and say, he going turning point, and we're going to go attend group sessions with him. Or people at St. Martin, he made a mistake, he's young, let's give him another chance. Or some type of excuse. But instead, we stay quiet. He get convicted. Maybe St. Martin people go forget. You still remember? Shit. You still remember now? Oh, hurricane coming. Let me fix the roofs. Oh, let me fix the dump. Right after his conviction, he sent out a press release. And he didn't send out a press release that he's sorry, or that he will resign, or that he apologizes and from now on he will be encouraging youngsters and everybody out there to drink responsibly. No, 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 no! What he did instead is plant a tree. World Environment Day, he planted a tree. Not 5 trees, not 2 trees, 1 tree. This tree-loving minister you know, there are certain things we take, and I can name the amount of things that this government done that you probably forget about. And rightfully so, because you only care about what happens to you. I understand that. But this one is a hard pill to swallow. And I refuse to swallow it because I don't like pills. For the life of me, I cannot understand how this coalition and the members of the opposition could stay completely quiet about the fact that there's a minister who was convicted of drinking alcohol over the influence. Like, how is it that we taking this? This is what we're doing? How is it that are you? And you know what's going to happen, right? Budget meeting's supposed to be tomorrow, Friday. The minister is going to come and he's going to read the stuff for Rumi and how much of a good job he's doing. And he won't mention anything about the conviction. And it would be, everybody would be like, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, thank you for the budget amendments and thank you for the budget presentation, because that's all we do. We forget. Or we know, but we don't mention because we don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, you know? Well, I go and mention it. So, this is the example we are setting for our people. You ask somebody on WhatsApp for sexual favors, otherwise they're fired. Check. You hire anybody you want from any country, even if it's not St. Martin. Check. Let's give the airport to the Dutch because St. Martin people is no good. Check. We ain't gonna pay our police officers, but we're gonna pay the outside officers first, and then afterwards we're going to see if money's left for our officers. Check. I go and drink and drive. And if I get caught, I'm going to say, I didn't know. I'm going to pay my fine and go back to work tomorrow. And nobody going to say anything about it. Check. Anyway, I'm here for you. I'm going to ask the questions. I'm going to continue asking the questions. But it's a hard pill to swallow, and I ain't doing it. There's so much we can take, but the hypocrites of the Christian Party, and I mean that by extension, all the candidates who ran with the Christian Party, shame on all of you. Because you staying quiet right now is exactly why. That's exactly why. Because we expect a certain moral standard from your party. In the beginning, you know, you put your foot in your mouth by stating that you will not work with Franz Richardson Party, the USP, because he is being investigated. Meanwhile, Chanel Brownbill, meanwhile, Miklos Getterson, meanwhile, Theo Heiliger, under investigation. And what happens? It's under investigation. We need to, we believe that we need to keep the government together at all costs because St. Martin needs a proper government. At what cost, Christian Party? And you know what's, you know it. They ain't gonna say nothing now. He got convicted. Yeah, but I think the young man is going to learn from his mistakes, and we don't need to condemn young people. Let's continue governing. So, no problem. I gonna mention it though. From now on, I'm referring to the man as the drunken minister. That is going to be my title until he resigns or until he is a minister no more. Drunken minister Miklos Getterson. That's it. Because if he is staying on as a minister, I can call him what I want. Because he was convicted. So let's just be convicting brothers. Let's do it. Welcome to the Late Night Show. One more thing before we go. There was an unfortunate accident that took place. I shouldn't say accident, it was a robbery that went completely south. It happened in Beacon Hill yesterday in the late hours, where a tourist from Montreal and his daughter were walking quietly along the side. I think they were going down Bigwood Restaurant, or no, not Bigwood Restaurant. You know that restaurant in the corner that was like a shack first and now it's like a big restaurant by Mahou Reef side? Right there. A guy comes up and shoots the guy in the head. Apparently he wanted to harass the daughter, and the guy came to the defense of his daughter and they were robbed, and then the robber shot the man point blank in his head. Right now he is in a coma at the St. Martin Medical Center emergency room, and he will be flown out as soon as he stabilizes a little bit to a nearest trauma center. Now, what's unfortunate is that, and this is the reason why I decided to actually say something about it, is because I need anybody who's watching to understand that the tourism product for St. Martin is very fragile right now. After Irma, even though it was 2 years ago, it kind of slowed down, but then we just pretended like we was fine, and we are open for business, even though we ain't have no roof home. We know that the business is safe and open, so we're trying to make a little money. There is no excuse for robbers to shoot anybody, and to shoot a visitor in the head is cowardly. If you're going to rob somebody, and you know, I realistic. So if you're gonna rob them, rob them. Gun boot, kick them in the groin, slap them in the face, tell them close their eyes, kick them in the, do whatever you want. But to shoot to kill is ridiculous, and you should think about the consequences of what you're doing to the island itself. Our prayers and thoughts goes out to the family members of this gentleman who was an innocent visitor coming to the island. It's unfortunate, and I think that I hope the police catches the guy, honestly, because that is not cool at all.
That is it for the Late Night Show. Thank you so much for watching. Until tomorrow, have a pleasant one. Bye-bye.